So here we have it. Italy are crowned the Euro 2020 champions, and rightly so. They were, on the day, the better team. I just want to take 10 minutes out of your time and my time to have a chat about the match. Let me know what you think about my opinion about the match. Let's get into it. So, obviously, I've done one football video on this channel before. It was about the Super League. You kind of enjoyed my takes. I figured I'd do another one. It's the morning after the result of the match. I've slept on it. Didn't do an instant match reaction because I didn't want to get all over the top. Here's what I've got to say. Okay, so the loss is not on the players. We're at home. The crowd are going absolutely mental. The whole country is buzzing. I've not seen anything like that before in my lifetime. You know, we've not been in a final in my lifetime. We've not won anything in my lifetime. And the crowd going absolutely mental. The country are so excited for this match. We're basically playing at home. We're at Wembley. We're playing at home. And through some amazing play, we go 1-0 up. Superb. There's an early jitter. Maguire kicks the ball out. People are already a few moans and groans at Maguire, but the reality was there was no angle for him, and he panicked past it because he didn't want to shoot it across the face of his goal instantly. We give a corner away. I'm tense. I'm really tense. The corner goes in, we clear it. Luke Shaw, who has one of the best touches in world football, I'm telling you, the guy's first touch is incredible, calmly takes the ball out, plays a bit of a 1-2, continues his run. We shift the ball into acres of space on their left back spot, so our right. We shift the ball into acres of space. Kane dropped deep. Lovely turn, lovely find. Shaw's continued his run. Trippier has got all the time in the world, which is why he's in the squad. Has a look round, floats a ball to Luke Shaw, who's continued his run, and he volleys it into the net. Everywhere around my street, you could hear them cheering. Everyone was going mental. The crowd's going mental. We are 1-0 up. And what that does is that absolutely settles you down because we're shitting ourselves, right? We're in a final. We've never really been in a final. We haven't been in a European Euro 2020 final at all, ever. We've been in a World Cup final, but not the Euros. And we're so nervous. So what do? We've just scored officially the world's fastest goal in a European final. Do we push on? What do? We decide to sit back. Okay, I understand it. We can sit back. We can just pause for a moment. Let's not let the occasion overawe us. Let's sit back a little bit. And it makes sense. You're most vulnerable when you've just scored, right? So you're most vulnerable when you've just scored. So we sit back for 5 to 10 minutes and we're still having flashes of attacks through that right-hand side. Their left-back area was way open. Whether it was a tactic that they do for their team because Spinazzola, who was injured, normally rampages down that left. There was a ton of space for us to attack and we were looking on top. For the first 20 minutes of the game, far the better team. Italy, from my perspective, the management as well, everyone around there looked stunned. The occasion was booming, we were winning, we were attacking them. They looked a bit frozen, they looked a bit scared. And what did we do? Did we push on and carry on that wave of attack? No, we just carried on and we sat back. And what ended up happening was our wing backs, our sort of a transitional play became a back five. So we're sitting now with a back five. We've kind of got a front three that are a bit scared to press, and we have a midfield two. So what was happening was if the front three press and Italy bypass that press with a ball, with a pass, with anything, they're then facing only two midfielders and a back five. So there's a ton of space and we're now deep. That's kind of the tactic, right? So what we decided to do was not press them because we didn't want to basically commit, get bypassed, and then they have the whole midfield to themselves. But by not pressing, by not making them make that pass, we ended up with a front three that didn't really do anything, got bypassed anyway, and it was a midfield two job. We began to look really tired. We got to the sort of 40-minute mark, and at that point, Italy were beginning to just get on top. They were beginning to get on top, dominate the match, and we just about got to half-time 1-0 up, and I thought to myself, that can't continue. And this isn't a post-match thing. You can ask my family, my friends. I said this at the time. I said, yeah, this can't continue. They're going to 100% score if this carries on. We sat back for another 120 minutes. That's what we did, basically. The total match, after we kicked that ball and we scored in like the second minute, we sat back for 120 minutes with all of that talent on the bench. I don't want to say this, but it's true. Southgate was cowardly. Whether he froze, we don't know, but it was cowardly. We did not attack them. We had, and we have, the ability to beat that Italy side. We are a really, really good squad of players. A fantastic squad of players. For the first time, normally England have had like a good first 11, the golden generation, and then the bench is a bit naff. We have really good talent all throughout the side, and we sat back. Now, think about this. Rashford and Sancho's first touch is a penalty, and Saka is a young kid. And I really tried to get behind the team for 120 minutes with that blind faith. But you can't blind faith tactics. Tactics are going to come out on top most of the time. Yes, anything can happen in a final, but most of the time the tactics are going to decide how the game plays out. You can't play a two-man midfield versus a three-man midfield, and their midfield is really good quality. Jorginho, Verratti, you've got Insigne running all they're just really high energy team. You can't let them have the ball. They were just beginning to Jorginho, Verratti were playing really, really well. They were just pulling all the strings. Italy's defence were basically terrified of the runs of Sterling when Jack Grealish came on. Even when Saka had a bit of a run, he got yanked down. Just to note, really irritates me when totally casual football fans start getting really mad about tactics when they don't know what they're talking about. I saw so many people on Facebook after the match there saying this should have been a red and they were screenshotting it. It's a tactical foul. It was the smartest piece of defending we'd seen during the match, basically. It was never a red. I tried the blind optimism to will the team on till the end. I was, even in the 121st minute, just saying, I don't even care. Just if anything can happen, we could win. The turning point of the match for me was the 54th minute. The 54th minute, they brought on two fresh players. And who did they bring off? They wheeled off their attackers for two new attackers. That was a signal to the team, the Italian team. Listen, I'm not happy with this. I don't care who you are, how many goals you've scored, if you've got us to this point in the tournament on the day, which is really important because anyone on a final can play well. We've seen it throughout years of football. In a final, there's always that one guy that just has the game of his life. So at the 54th minute mark, he brought on two players, and after 10 minutes, they dominated us. There was that surge of energy, and they completely dominated us. And I was just sat there saying over and over and over again, when is he going to make a change? We can't keep playing a two-man midfield with wing-backs sat back in a back five. I was like, we can't keep doing it. If you give a team the ball for long enough, no matter how bad they are or how good they are, they're going to score eventually. We've seen it time and time again that this defensive sit-back football like Mourinho-esque doesn't really work all that well. I know it's different in a tournament, but when you play a top side that can open and create chances, it doesn't work. So we sit back, we make no changes. Though we brought on Henderson after the goal, I believe it was. I'm not too sure that my memory fades, but we didn't do anything. We also, our only sub really in the kind of midfield department was we took off Rice. And I've been a bit of a critic of Rice this tournament because I've not really seen him. I judge it from like a Manchester United fan. We're trying to maybe buy him for 100 million. I don't see that player in him. But that match, he was everywhere. He was reading the game really well. He was just nipping in and getting in there. And he was also driving on. He was holding on to the ball for a little bit long, but it was great. It was running us out. It was relieving that pressure. And I thought, he was having one of his best games and he got wheeled off. And Phillips stayed on the pitch. And I thought Phillips looked gassed. I thought he looks quite tired in the last match. In this match, he looked even more gassed because he's doing a two-man midfield job versus the whole Italy defence, really, the whole Italy attack. So we just made no changes. We made absolutely no changes. And they scored. Well played Italy, the deserved winners. But we had the squad and the ability to win that match. And unfortunately, I'll say it, we were let down by a manager that in the key moments, unfortunately, showed his true quality. A failed Middlesbrough manager that froze tactically in the biggest game of his life. And to bollocks with all of this, the players and the team will be so much better for losing. No, they won't. You know what they would have been better for? Winning. If we'd have taken the game to Italy and we'd have won, the whole country would have been up. We'd have believed that we can take on top teams. We'd have said, we've beaten Germany, we've beaten Italy, and we've won a tournament. We actually can do this. But now, the same things are going to happen. Oh, it was an easy run up to the final. Oh, we bottled it against the only good team. Oh, Germany's team weren't the team of old. Tactically, we froze in the final. That's what's going to happen. They're not going to be better for losing this. Is Saka going to be better for losing this match than if he'd have scored that winning pen? No. So let's go on to some final key points, which people keep seeming to forget, and I've wrote these down. Southgate said post-match, well, that's always the risk you run, but they have to... So basically Southgate got asked, why are you bringing on these players so late? And I'm going to continue on. So Southgate said, it's always the risk you run, but they have been by far the best at penalties in training, and to get all of those attacking players on that pitch, you're going to have to do it late. It was a gamble, but if I did gamble any earlier, we could have lost the game, and that shows you the mentality. He didn't want to put on our attackers, because in his mind, if he puts on our attackers at 1-0 up, at 1-1, we could lose the game because we would start to be more attacking, have more holes in our defence. So he was more than happy to basically sit at 1-0, 1-1, and pray that we got maybe a long throw in from Walker, a cross, something just as play, the ball spins out, deflection, we run through on goal. He was more than happy to let the game bypass him. People are also forgetting that we took the lead in the penalty shootout. We actually took the lead in the penalty shootout, right? I'm absolutely sick of also these people that have no vested interest in sports that suddenly are just mouthing off about this country did that, this player did that, and they don't know what they're talking about. Unfortunately, this is what happened, right? Unfortunately, this is kind of what happened. He didn't want to sub on Rashford and Sancho because he was nervous. He's just said that. And as a result, what almost ended up happening was he left the substitutes so late that rather than bringing them one by one, we had to do the double sub at the corner, which we almost conceded from. You never really sub before a corner. That's kind of a written rule in football. Not only did he do that, he took off Walker and someone else. So he took off some defensive players, threw on two people fresh into the game. And what he's saying is that, he's decided the penalties beforehand. We're going to now talk about the penalties because we have to. So first of all, the main point is the game should never have gone to penalties. We have the squad and the ability to attack that Italian team. And at least, like Gareth Southgate said, we go out and we try to win it in 90, 120 minutes. And if we lose from a counter-attack or they just play really well, we lose. The idea that we should have penalties in mind and be thinking about penalties is really stupid because we're famously not very good at pens. We have a huge occasion on our shoulders as well. This isn't just some qualifying match. This is the biggest match of our basically history. And he decides basically that, it's not too bad that we're drawing. We could go to pens. When if you go to pens, to me, we've lost. If you go to the second portion of extra time, you've lost. This Italian team are fantastic. They are experienced at just running the clock down. Little fouls, little subs. Look at the opposite manager. Mancini, here's another point before we get into the pens. Mancini didn't freeze. He was angry at 1-0 down. He was angry at 1-1. He wanted more. He subbed off Verratti. People are forgetting this. He subbed off Verratti. He subbed off his front three. He basically changed the entire Italy midfield and kept that stable back four because they were doing well. And he went for it. They didn't score. They were a bit sloppy. They honestly didn't really create any clear-cut chances. Their goal was a bit sloppy. But they absolutely went for it. And he didn't think to himself, I can't sub this guy off because he's X name and he's got this many goals and he did this in the last match. He just thought to himself, Verratti, you're playing really, really well, but you look knackered, you're coming off. Phillips looked knackered, could have easily brought on Bellingham, who's also got good passing range. You've also got the problem of, like, say, Harry Kane and Sterling. I can understand the notion of keeping one of them on because one of them have got that world-class quality to score a goal, to create a goal. So I could understand keeping one of them on, maybe. Even though they were gassed out towards, like, the 80-minute plus, I can sort of understand keeping one of them on. Maybe Harry Kane because he is so good at pens as well, you know. But one of them have got to come off because they were so knackered. They was not involved in the game at all. But again, like Gareth said, if I brought people on earlier, there was a chance we could lose. He was more than happy to let it go to pens. And that is what the manager said. So I think the notion that he's not choosing the name anymore like the England of old, we always just used to choose who played for the top four clubs, is a bit daft because when push comes to shove and we have the big moment, he didn't sub the people that should have been subbed, unfortunately. But again, this isn't about the substitutes. This isn't about the system. A lot of people get messed up in that. They get a lot of like honed in on the systems and the subs and all of this. The reality is the message and the mentality from above was, let's not lose this. That's what it was. Let's not lose this. And if we go to pens, I've got my pens and we could win a pen because we all know penalty shootouts, they're not entirely random, but you don't know how people are going to handle it on the day. The biggest tell, and when people say that, oh, they were bad pens and this person shouldn't have taken a pen and blah, 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 the biggest tell is Jorginho, who'd been on the pitch for the whole tournament, basically. The whole tournament he'd been on the pitch. He'd been on the pitch the whole match. He'd ran the show. He'd played really well. He's an immensely good penalty taker. Missed that penalty to win them the tournament. Why? Pressure. Pressure. You don't know how people are going to handle it on that day. Tomorrow, if you give Jorginho that same pressure, he might score. But on the day, for some reason, Pickford saved that penalty. So that's the reason why I don't think you should ever think about trying to get to penalties unless you're the complete underdog, because you have no idea who's going to basically be good on pens. And this leads you into the subs. This leads you into the subs of Saka wasn't playing well. The guy has been brilliant all tournament, but unfortunately, he didn't play well when he came on. I think if you just took off all of the people's names on the back of their shirts and didn't say they were England and you were to point out, is this number 25 having a good game? He wasn't having a good game, right? Now, if it had been brought on earlier and our manager had been a bit more attacking and progressive, he could have subbed him off and said, unfortunately, mate, you're just not having the game we thought you could have. You're good enough to be brilliant, but unfortunately today, you're not. You can come off. But because he left his subs so late, he kept Saka on. Because he left his subs so late, Rashford and Sancho didn't have a single minute to get involved in the match. And you'll say, well, they're world-class players. They are good at pens at training. You don't need half an hour to warm up because clearly Jorginho was warmed up and he missed. I get it. But do you not think that logically the best thing to do, if you know they are your penalty takers, which he did, which we'll get onto, the logical thing to do is give them 10 minutes to just feel the atmosphere, to get those nerves out of his legs, to just calm down, even if it's just 2% calm down just a tiny bit. Do you not think that would have helped? So the final point is his penalty takers. I like the idea. I do like like the idea of picking your penalty takers before the match. I do kind of like that. It seems natural to select your penalty takers before the game starts, and I think Southgate did well in that regard. But to select Saka, who wasn't having the best game, who has never taken a professional pen in his life at this moment, was suicidal. I understand he might have been immense in training, but as a manager, you've got to read the situation in front. He might have been immense in training, he might be a good player, he might be a young, fearless kid, but on the day, he wasn't playing well, and also he's never taken a professional pen. Was that the person to select for pen 5? Because pen 5 is only one of two things. You're either kicking to win it, huge pressure, or you're kicking to keep your team in it, huge pressure. Now, to select Sancho, I think he's only ever taken 2 to 3 pens, is a bit crazy, but he's a world-class player. But having not touched the football that match, and having also to know, not trusted him for the entire tournament, he didn't play him the entire tournament really, same for Rashford, does it make sense to pick those two players who he clearly didn't trust for the match to then be entrusted with your biggest penalties ever? It would have honestly made more sense for John Stones and Phillips to take pens, because clearly he's trusted them the entire tournament. They've played every minute, they're involved, they're warmed up. Logically, it doesn't really matter what's gone on in training, because training is very, very different to the most important kick of your life, clearly. And I just think to make them take those pens having never touched the ball and having so little game time in general during the tournament was barbaric. We were 2-1 up. They levelled it. We had a chance to go 3-2 up, and then it's flipped, isn't it? All of a sudden, Italy have to keep scoring. So that, in a way, Rashford's was kind of our biggest pen. Right? There was 2 massive pens. They're all massive, but number 1, Italy go 1-0 up. Kane has to score, and he does. Brilliant pen. They miss the next pressure, Harry Maguire, to take the lead and give us the better format, because the team that goes first normally wins because you're always chasing. Harry Maguire has a pen to basically give us not just the actual lead at 2-1, but the psychological lead and the statistical lead of suddenly Italy are now tracing. He nails it into the top corner, world-class pen. Italy score. And all of a sudden, Rashford is ready to reassert the lead, and he's not kicked a ball all tournament, really. He's not kicked a ball for this match. And all of a sudden, the Rashford that I know that runs up and leathers it in against PSG started to stutter step. He sent the keeper the wrong way. Probably something went through his mind of, shit, I've actually sent him the wrong way. And then he misses the pen, unfortunately. But I don't care who misses the pens, because we should have never been on pens, and anybody can miss a pen. So that's where it's confusing to me. It's confusing to basically play for pens as a country and a nation that aren't very good at it, where anything can happen. And just the misreading of the game. That's what I'm disappointed in. I'm honestly not that disappointed in losing. For me, it's same old England. We're going to win, we don't quite win. And I'll be honest, I think one of the basic reasons is the England job isn't the prestigious job. If you can get a top 4 management job in England in the Prem, you're the GG top tier manager. The England job is kind of like the Middlesbrough manager, the Southgate, the Roy Hodgsons, I just think he completely froze. Look, I'm not saying Gareth Southgate is the shittest manager of all time. I think he's done really well to bond the team together. But at the crucial moment, he froze, he showed his level, and let's be honest, right? Just forget everything. Forget you'd won. If we'd have won the tournament, forget it. Were you entertained by England's football this tournament? No, I wasn't. I thought it was pragmatic, 1-0 football. You're going to say, well, we won 4-0, we beat these, blah, blah, blah. The style of football was always risk-averse, try and not let them score as best you can, even if that means sacrificing your entire attack. And it does work in tournaments, and I'm not going to slag him off for that, because it's the best I've ever seen England do in my life. So statistically, for me, he's the best England manager ever, right? But unfortunately, at the key moment, he sort of showed his level. Now, can he learn from that? Can the country learn from that? I don't know. I'm hoping we can, but who knows? I just think, for me, the disappointment wasn't losing. The disappointment from me was we had the talent on that bench to get them on and attack Italy and really take it to them. And if we'd have lost 3-1, if we'd have lost 4-2, if we'd have lost 1-0, we'd have constantly been bombarding forward, hitting the post, skying shots, missing shots, and they finally won 2-1 or whatever. I'd have said, damn, on the day we weren't good enough. But to just sit back and just, it wasn't right. And again, I'll read Southgate's quote. It's the risk you run. If you bring on these attacking players, you've got to do it late. It was a gamble, but if we'd have gambled any earlier, we could have lost the game. That's the mentality, unfortunately, and that has to stop, doesn't it? So that's my thoughts. I think Italy on the day dominated possession, dominated the ball, didn't really create too much. They were scrappy. They did very good job of sort of wasting the extra time period, and they were happy to go to pens. And they won, and they deserved to win. I don't agree with all this. England were a fantastic team. We played immense on the day. The best team lost. Pens are a complete gamble, and there's nothing he could have done. He could have done some stuff. I just don't think we should have ever tried to go to pens. I think we should have attacked them, and probably in my lifetime, I won't be seeing England in another major final, let's be honest. So I'm going to go back to focusing on club football and not reading all of these idiot bloody posts from people that don't watch the football. They tune in because their friends watch it. They want to feel involved in something. They want to, the streets getting involved, the pubs are involved. They want to get involved and they give these really shit takes. So hopefully mine wasn't a shit take. That's how I feel about the match. Let me know in the comments below what you feel about the match. Obviously, I'm disappointed, but I'm not distraught that we lost because it's at that 50-minute mark. I just thought to myself, I know what's going to happen here if it doesn't change. There was no changes, and yeah, just logically, like Henderson on for Rice when Rice was playing well, Henderson off, not get the attackers on to win. It was just like, I don't know. Whatever, that's England. That's England we know. That's England we support.